Good evening or good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Regina Yao. I'm the founder and president of the Pixel Project, and I'm moderating our 26th Read for Pixels live stream panel session. And this is also the 7th YouTube live stream of the 10th International Women's Day edition of our Read for Pixels campaign. So the Pixel Project created this multi-author panel sessions to be an accessible resource for writers interested in writing about female characters and approaching themes such as misogyny, sexism, gender, and violence against women with depth, empathy, and accuracy. March is Women in Horror Month. And so what better topic for us to discuss today than Sisters That Slay, Sisterhood, Female Friendship, and Violence Against Women in Horror. And here to take part in the discussion are 3 acclaimed horror authors and editors. So right below me is Geneve Flynn. Geneve is a speculative fiction editor, author, and poet. She is the co-editor of Black Crane's Tales of Unquiet Women, the anthology which launched the grassroots movement in Asian women's horror writing. She is a 2-time Bram Stoker Award winner, Shirley Jackson Australasian Shadows and Aureolis Award winner, and the 2022 Queensland Writers Fellowship recipient. Next to me is Linda D. Addison. Linda is the 5-time recipient of the Horror Writers Association Bram Stoker Award, including The Place of Broken Things and How to Recognize a Demon Has Become Your Friend. She is also the recipient of HWA's Lifetime Achievement Award, the HWA Mentor of the Year, and SFPA Grandmaster of Fantastic Poetry. And Nicole Givens Kurtz, who is right below Linda D. Addison. Nicole is a 2-time Palmetto Scribe Award winner in 2021 and 2022 for her short stories and her novella. Nicole has over 50 published short stories, including her story, The Way Home, in Marvel's Captain America, The Shield of Sam Wilson anthology from Titan Books. And aside from joining today's panel, Geneve, Linda, and Nicole have donated some super exclusive goodies to the stash of author treats we have up as perks for donors at the Read for Pixels 2026 International Women's Day Rally Up fundraising page. And let's go into this. Let's talk a little bit about this. So for US donors only, Linda has a couple of awesome giveaways for Read for Pixels donors. So the first one is really cool. Linda will write an acrostic poem based on the donor's name. That's hard, Linda. That's basically, so the reason why I'm saying it's hard, everybody, is because an acrostic poem uses the first letter of the name of a name vertically and writes a phrase or sentence for each letter, and it all has to come together as a poem. So that is something really special. And before Linda composes the poem, she will send that donor 3 questions to answer in order to get a general idea of the donor as a person before writing that poem for you. The second goodie that Linda is offering is a gorgeous mini bundle, which includes a copy of Everything Endless, which is her latest poetry collection. She'll sign and personalize it. And I think, Linda, that's been nominated, right? It's been nominated for a Nebula Award, and is it Bram Stoker?
Yeah, a poem from it is on the nomination for Nebula, and the entire book for Bram Stoker. So excited about that.
Yeah, and this is the first time a poetry collection has been nominated for the Nebulas, right?
It's the first time they had a Best Poem nomination. So to be nominated on that is like amazing.
Yeah. And the second book in the bundle is An Illegal Feast, and that's in paperback as well, and it's signed and personalized. And Linda will also add in 6 Everything Endless bookmarks. I know there's some bookmark collectors out there, so y'all might want to take note of this. And next, Nicole will be giving away 2 exclusive Reaping by Numbers bundles. The bundle, which is carefully curated by Nicole herself, includes 1 Reaping by Numbers one copy of Reaping by Numbers. It's a first edition paperback, and Nicole will sign and personalize it for you. Nicole will also tuck in a friendship bracelet and a set of stickers. So this is a really cool book. I think it's about a reaper, right, Nicole?
Yes.
Yeah. And what she has to do to save the world. So this is a really great read for your summer. And now for donors worldwide. So we talked about goodies that are only available to donors in the US, but for donors worldwide, Genevieve has a couple of goodies. One has actually gone. That is the signed and personalized copy of Unquiet Spirits, which is a collection of essays by female horror authors. That's gone. Someone just scooped it up. And the second goodie is a critique bundle. Genevieve is actually a professional editor, and Genevieve also teaches creative writing. So you're getting a lot of expertise here. So the bundle will include one written critique of a short story or a chapter from your work in progress. And it's up to a maximum of 5,000 words. So that is a pretty decent chunk. And Genevieve will also answer up to 5 follow-up questions via email to give you further feedback about the critique. And finally, Nicole will also be giving away a special ebook bundle to 5 Read for Pixels donors anywhere in the world. It's the ebook bundle of Reaping by Numbers. You can choose with either the EPUB or the PDF format sent to you, and also one set of 4 Read for Pixels wallpapers from the Pixel Project. So we've raised $1,830 towards our $5,000 goal so far. So please do give generously before the fundraiser ends in April. All funds go towards the Pixel Project's work to help end violence against women. And you, the audience, will also be able to ask the panelists questions live. Just make sure you're logged into your YouTube account so that you can type your questions into the chat box to the right of the screen. And Anusha, who's today's producer and chat box moderator, will relay them to me to put your questions on screen and read them out to Genevieve, Linda, and Nicole to answer. Now, that's done. And so onwards to the panel session. So let's do a little bit of an introduction. So horror as a genre in both modern and folk storytelling has also conventionally been unkind to women and other female figures. From witches' covens to mean girl sororities, pairs and groups of women and girls are often depicted in negative and monstrous ways in horror. Running parallel to these negative and misogynistic stereotypes are sisters and female friends who are often relegated to the margins of the story or simply used as storytelling fodder. The close friendship between Mina and Lucy that was violently and irretrievably severed by Dracula is a case in point. However, the portrayal of sisters and female friendship in horror seems to have started changing since the late 20th century. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, the late 20th century, with the emergence of films and TV series such as Alien, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Ginger Snaps. This change appears to have accelerated in the last 25 years and which has seen the rise of novels and stories by horror luminaries such as Angela Slatter and Rachel Harrison, who center female friendships and sisters in their spine-chilling novels and stories. So with that in mind, today's discussion featuring a horror-tastic panel of authors Genevieve, Linda, and Nicole will be talking about sisterhood and female friendship and violence against women in horror. So let's begin by talking about the portrayal of sisterhood and female friendship in horror. So who are your favorite fictional sisters and female friendships or groups in horror, and why? Let's start with Genevieve.
The one story that really comes to mind is Elaine Clear King's The Genetic Alchemist's Daughter in Black Cranes. It's the opening story, and that won the Yugi Foster Award for excellence in short fiction. And that one, I think, I love the three sisters in that story because they're complex and they're and so much of that story holds up for examination. The the intersection of gender and race and family dynamics. So I think when you have something that nuanced, I think that's when you have really excellent fiction that focuses on female stories. So that's one of my favorites. Another is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zheng by Kyla Lee Baker. That was, I think, on the preliminary list for the Stokers. And that features two sisters, and it's an examination of cultural tensions. It is centered on the experience of the pandemic, and also the anti-Asian rhetoric that was going around at the time and the fallout from that. But it's also touches on mental illness. It touches on grief and the panic surrounding the pandemic. So it's these stories that are really complex and that are that aren't focusing on maybe the relationship to a male figure, but it's these female characters that have agency and they have strengths and flaws. Those are probably my favorites that I've seen recently.
So, Linda, who are your favorite fictional sisters or female friends in horror?
Oh, okay. This is super hard for me. I love what Genevieve just said. Because I do a lot of stuff with poetry, I was trying to think, like, where's the first time I saw someone with poetry really concentrate on the concept, and it's not so much that all the poems in it are between two females, but that the whole process, the whole book was written by a female, and it's called I'm Not Your Final Girl. It was written by Claire C. Holland, I forget, some years ago. But to me, when I read that, it blew my mind because the partnership is really between the poet and the poetry. And it became a partnership with me because I'm so sensitive to seeing women in movies and books, like, not showing their strength, not being able to be angry and rageful. We have to be nice. And so even though it's not about two women in a particular thing, I think there's so much of that. That was the one that really made me think. I've been waiting for book 2 of this. So that made me really see, and she hit all the kind of cliches in there that really make you realize that this cliche that's been done, now this is from the point of view of the cliched character. So I know it's a little bit not quite there, but I have to shout out on some poetry about that.
Nicole, who are your favorite female friends or sisters in horror?
This was really difficult for me as well. But I did manage to kind of narrow it down the more I thought about it. I really like Jane from Dread Nation. And she does anyone know Dread Nation is from Justina, Ireland? It's about it's an alternative history novel, but it's alternative history, but it's really gory. It takes place post-Civil War America during like the Reconstruction period, where zombies are the norm. And Jane and Catherine, they start off as enemies, but they become really best friends, and they grow up killing zombies. And so they're learning the craft of killing zombies and taking care of things and their families and each other. And so Dread Nation is kind of one of my favorite arcs, where it shows how we may not understand each other initially, but through adversity and just shared experiences, we can grow to become really good friends. It's also the same thing that happens in my other book that I actually really like, which is V. Castro's Goddess of Filth. there were conversations that it was kind of like the craft, but it really isn't. It does start off with, a group of Latino girls having a seance. They're playing around, but they actually end up summoning an Aztec goddess. And it's the shy one in the group that is possessed. And so they have to come together. As friends, they work to save their friend, but also they work while doing that. They're also having to push back against gender norms and misogyny and stereotypes and things, that expectations. So it's a novella. It's really short, but it packs a wallop. And I really, really enjoyed Goddess of Filth and the relationships between the female characters that were there. And ironically enough, when the girls do seek to get assistance, they do find a female PhD professor who helps them and is trying to preserve Aztec language or resurrect Aztec language and culture. And so there aren't very many males in Goddess of Filth, but a lot of the women are empowered. And I like how the female adults are also assisting and lifting up the female characters that are younger. It was really good.
So, do you all think that the portrayal of sisters and female friendship in the horror genre has progressed far enough since the 1980s? Or do you think there's still a long way to go? Genevieve.
I think more women are making horror and more women are getting recognized as being excellent at horror. But I think we do still have a way to go in terms of equality in who gets to sit at the table, who gets recognized, who gets reviewed. But I think we're seeing a lot more fiction where women, one of my favorite things is where women claim monstrosity. I think where I think it was Rhonda Jackson Joseph said in a previous SnowPecan panel that the reason we're afraid of monstrous women is because the monster is often the strongest person in the room, the most powerful. And that is one of my favorite things, both to write about and to see in a narrative where they almost say, you call me monster, I will claim this monstrosity and I will become the most powerful thing. So I love seeing that evolution in some of the narratives where women, like Linda's saying, we're no longer feeling that need to be nice, that need to be polite and quiet. But I think there is still a way to go. But I think we're seeing more narratives where female relationships are the focus, but it's still maybe the minority. And then in terms of genre, if you're looking at romantic comedy, drama, women's fiction, there will be a lot of focus on female relationships. But in horror, less so. I found it difficult to try and single out a lot of narratives where the focus was on female relationships, where it was just females focusing on their own stuff rather than being the goal of the story, or whether or not they're being, as you say, storytelling fodder.
And that's why it's interesting to have this discussion that we're having today, because we're having it. I think I said that before we went on air, that we've noticed that there's been an slow increase in the number of books, horror books that have female friendship or sisters at the heart of the story. So hopefully that's a sign of progress. Linda, what do you think?
Well, I think a lot along what Genevieve has said, like each year, and I have been doing this for 40 or 50 years, but anyway, a while. And, that to have it have gone from, a point where just a handful of women in horror were talking about their experiences with each other, not even on a panel, at a convention, just like let's all get together and talk about what kind of things we're dealing with, problems and things. Each year, I feel like, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, I see more increasing presence and power with women in horror, like Mocha Memoirs that Nicole is doing, putting out, like, we're going to put out the books, with Genevieve and Angela Eureka Smith and another person, I'm so sorry, I'm not great with names, who've been putting out these collections of, stories and essays, by women, by Asian women. I mean, things that are concentrating, and there's other things when we talk about where people are highlighting. Each year, it feels like it's getting increasing, it's increasing in people saying it. So no longer, maybe 10 years, maybe 7 years ago, people would be like, how many women are actually writing horror now? Now it's, I want to say hundreds, okay? So people can't say that anymore. And also, I've found whenever I've gone to conventions and met, these two wonderful people and others, that we're always there for each other. There's no negativity. There's no not sharing, information or points of view. And that's how these things have been done all along. It's just that women weren't in the rooms, and we're in our own rooms. I mean, we're in their rooms and we in our own rooms now. So it's increasing, but no, there's more to be done, especially if each year it's noticeable how it's increasing. Then that means there is more to be done, but it's certainly so much better than 20 years ago, 10 years maybe. So I'm very happy to see that. And the fact is that it's happening because people are starting their own publishing, like Nicole's doing. Genevieve's starting her own idea of, like, let's get some, work out there by a whole group of women, people that nobody's even knows. So, I mean, it's an enlightening movement and full of rage, and I'm there for it. Give me some good. Give me a
So Nicole, what do you think? Do you think the portrayal of sisters and female friendship has progressed in the last decade or since the 1980s?
I think so. And for much of the reason that Linda mentioned, I also think that it's really important for us to continue to put women in the writer's room, right? And women in this, right, to who publishes that work. I think that's really important too, because we still have anthologies with an all male, table of contents.
That's so
right.
unthinkable to me, because Linda knows this. The Pixel Project did a charity anthology a few years back, and the one thing that we did when I sat down with the editor, it's like the editor and we both were going through the list of authors that the Pixel Project was going to invite. And it is actually a conscious decision. You have to consciously go, we are going to include more women, more non-binary, more non-binary authors. Yes, we will include men as well, but women's voices are the primary voices here. You have to, and then that, when you make that decision, and all of you have edited anthologies and collections and all, and I don't know, am I right? Right. I noticed that when we made that decision, then you start curating, and then you start thinking about whose voices are heard. And then your list of invitees will look really different from the list of invitees of someone who never thought about it at all. And just went, oh, we'll just go by the merits of the story. No, we are going by the merits of the story, but we are also going by if we have two stories that are equally amusing or equally engaging, and one's by a man and one's by a woman, then we ask the additional question, whose voice has not been heard yet?
But that is a conscious choice, right? All right, it's a conscious decision. And as a publisher, those are the decisions that we make, right? Our whole staff is female and non-binary. So we actually work and seek to produce those other stories that sometimes don't get heard. And we do. I mean, that's a conscious decision that we make. And I like seeing other publishers also make those kind of decisions about the work that they're producing, which is why I think we're seeing a lot more anthologies and stories featuring women and women friendships. Linda, you had your hand up.
No, I was just going to say, as you say, Nicole, again, looking over the length of time, you know, there's a period, and I think it's still kind of happening, where someone put out an anthology, and I would say it recently, more or less, whatever that means, where it was all men, you know, people would call them out on that stuff. To me, it's laziness. You're being, you know, that's like the nicest way of saying what it is. I mean, because you know what? It takes mindfulness to understand we live in a world full of people who are all different, and to try to create something that has a reflectiveness of that. And now, you know, when I get involved and when I get invited to an anthology, I like knowing who else is going to be there. And I, you know, and like to be like, well, I don't have time to do this, but I'd be happy to suggest some folks. I'm not going to tell y'all who, but just saying.
And you know, it's not hard, right?
It's not hard.
It's not hard to include women and non-binary people, because there's so many female authors out there. There are more and more non-binary authors. We've hosted non-binary authors before, and more people out there. People are out there. They're just endless names that you have to consider. Even when we've made a decision to include more female voices, that's, you know, that there's still, and some of the stories in the anthology, charity anthology we put out, are about sisters. You know, they are about sisters. There's one by Kelly Armstrong about a sister who's taking revenge for her sister who was killed by her abuser, right? And it's not hard. You just need to be mindful, as Linda said. And the more we're mindful, the more stories of sisterhood and female friendships will change. Because previously, like, you know, I cited Mina and Lucy in Dracula. That was what, in the 1800s, at the turn of the century, the fin de siècle period between the 19th and the 20th century. I think we've come a long way since then, but not long enough.
They can't say there's no women. They can't say there's no blacks. They can't say any of that anymore, because these months, you know, where last month was Black Women in Horror, this month is Women in Horror, is showing so many names, and each year it gets more. Each year, more people, not just women, are putting out lists of who's women in horror. You know, men, all kinds of people putting lists out there. No more can they say that they don't have these people. It's laziness. And there's another thing with the laziness, but I'm not going to say it because I'm a nice person.
All right, so let's talk about navigating spaces for sisterhood and female friendship in horror, because yes, that's because we've just been talking about making space for women, right? So horror purists would argue that the inclusion of positive portrayal of sisters, female friendships, and other female allyships would take away from the level of terror and dread that effective horror stories need, because traditionally horror relied on violating women's boundaries and casting powerful female pairs and groups as the perpetrators of evil and terror. So let's talk about how sisters, female friends, and allied groups of women and girls can navigate the spaces in horror that are fraught with sexism, misogyny, and violence against women. So first of all, what do you think makes sisterhood and female friendship uniquely suited for interrogating the sexism and misogyny that is rampant in the horror genre, Genevieve?
I think you kind of touched on one facet in that description, that groups of women or groups of girls or friendships have been sometimes demonized. And I think that in itself holds up a very clear mirror. I think that there is maybe a fear that when women get together, then maybe they'll share stories, maybe they'll start discussing systems of oppression, their own experiences, and they will start having some strategies about becoming monstrous, maybe. but I think that in itself, like holding that up, can be very powerful. It's like, yes, when women get together, they can be powerful, and they perhaps should be seen as a threat, but also I think destroying some of that stereotype of when women get together, there's jealousy or cattiness, one-upmanship, and all that type of thing. The female friendships I have, they're incredibly supportive. We get together, we laugh and commiserate about this crazy publishing and writing journey that we're on, but we also cheer each other on, and we don't have the kind of, I think, cattiness that is sometimes portrayed from in horror for women's relationships. But I think also it kind of goes back to the previous question: what can we do more of? I'd love to see friendships beyond female friendships portrayed in a more nuanced and complex way. For example, again, Bat Eater and Other Names for Korajang, there's a triangle, like three people in a friendship, and one of them is male, and it isn't portrayed as romantic or anything. They're just friends, and they're there for each other, and they're supportive of each other. I think having that idea that men and women can't be friends without any kind of romantic subtext is incredibly damaging for both sides. I think it means that men don't have or maybe reject intimacy or vulnerability, and that can be like very damaging. And then women also feel like, well, you can't, it isn't safe to be friends with men. So I think having that shift would go a long way to addressing a lot of misogyny and sexism and violence. I hope that was a bit of a rambling answer. I'm sorry.
You put me in mind of this K-drama series called How to Sell Your Haunted House, and basically it's about this female this female real estate agent, and she comes from a long line of shamans who help people clear their haunted houses. So in the modern day 21st century, she set up a real estate agency, which basically their mantra is, we'll clear your house for you and we'll sell your house for you. And we'll clear it first, and then we'll exercise your house, and then we'll sell it for you. And basically she works with male psychics. So the male psychics hold the demon or the ghost in them, and then she kills them using specialized tools, right? Wow. So this whole thing about she and her new partner, and there's not a whiff of romance at all throughout the entire 16 episodes. It's just two of them, up against the big bad, and they've discovered something that is far more sinister than the usual run-of-the-mill go in, get rid of the ghost, sell the house sort of thing. And I found that that sort of story a lot more engaging than a story where you have to shoehorn romance in if there's like a male and female protagonists working together. But I'm just raising that because as someone watching might want to try that out, because that illustrates what Genevieve is talking about, that if you portray intergender relationships, friendships as what it is, friendships, that it could change things as well. So Linda, what do you think? What do you think sisterhood, sisters and female friends in horror can do to help, with navigating and interrogating sexism and misogyny in the genre?
Well, I think in everything that Genevieve said is just like fabulous and perfect. And I'm going to watch this whole again just so I can like listen to it again because it was awesome. I think one of the things that I also was thinking, which was said already, is that in some ways is that when you are talking about a sisterhood or a friendship, you're stripping away the most like one-dimensional parts of a character and story, you know, to make it about jealousy, to make it about sex, to make it about anything else. It's like not well written if that's the situation going on. You know, what really holds someone into a book, and it doesn't have to be words and words and words of it, is the complexity of characters and what we need from each other as friends. You know, a whole lot more than just sex. You can get a machine for that situation. I mean, you know, I'm just saying. I'm sorry, still worthy, but you know, think of all the people in your life that mean something to you. It is not about the sex. It's about having someone that you can voice something and then feel like you're being heard. And that's what you get when you have sisterhood and these friendships in a thing. You have two characters who have different versions, maybe even, of what is going on in the story. And so if they're both female, besides the idea that that is just two different characters, writers, you can do that. You can have different characters and have them have the same sex. I'm just saying. And, you know, have their own strengths that they can bring out with the other person, or their own weaknesses that the other person can listen to. And in there, without preaching, because I'm not much for preaching and writing, I'm more like you put it there and what people pick up. In there, you can voice the idea that these two female characters' situation is showing you the strength that you don't think women can have, are showing you the kind of, you know, understanding you don't think they can have, are showing you some kind of rage situation. You're not just taking it far. So, you know, I think there's so much to be gained, so much more interest. I think the books that people are raving over, I think Rachel Harrison is one of the ones people rave over about her, what's happening with her women characters. I mean, it just makes it more interested and more than one-dimensional, more than cliched. And at the same time can kind of open people's mind to maybe, oh, maybe I've been looking at women as more one-dimensional or something like that. So I think the potential is really big.
Nicole, what do you think?
I think horror at its core is about honesty. So when we're faced with something traumatic or terrifying, the real us is revealed, right? Whether that's courage or cowardice, that's unveiled. So who better to call out misogyny or sexism or even violence against women than the demographic that suffers it? And so I think when we're writing female relationships and we're addressing those things, I think women are the ones who should do that. And horror makes us honest, right? Horror is in a space where we can do those things. It not be, you can't do it in a rom-com, right? You can, but it's not as effective or not as visceral, I should say. I liked everything that Linda said too about representation. And John Green once said that representation isn't just for the demographic that's being represented, it's also for the other people who are outside that demographic to be able to see women be more than just that one-dimensional flat character, right? Or that stereotype of the girl running in the shower, right? Just very, it's not just for women to see that, it's also good for men to see that. And so they can start viewing women beyond that one-dimensional stereotypical frame as characters. And I think Linda just said that in terms of maybe helping other writers see, wait a minute, I can write a more complex female character. I can write demographics, I can write women friendships that are more than just what you see on reality TV of the cattiness and the scripted jealousy and backstabbing. When I write characters. I always write female relationships and I always write female partners. And that's because I like showing nurturing, supportive relationships that I actually experience in real life, right? I think Genevieve was talking about that too. It's like, I have a group of friends, we meet every Thursday, And there's no cattiness, there's no backstabbing, there's none of that. We celebrate each other's wins. We uplift each other when we're feeling low. Like this, we share information because we're all writers, and I think that's really important to come as an aspect of female relationships that could be represented more in horror, right? Those real round, complex characters that we don't always get with female relationships in the genre.
Yeah. And, you know, all this plus what you said, plus what Genevieve said at the beginning when we're talking about this, about the fear of women in groups, right? Women and girls in groups. And, you know, the one thing that kept flashing through my mind, the one phrase, burning down the patriarchy is a group project. They don't want us to do that group project. The patriarchy does not want us to do that group project, even in fiction. It is a group project. I mean, you look in the real world, right? Mm-hmm. I had an anti-violence against women nonprofit. There are so many of us, small and big, right? And it's a huge struggle, especially now at this point where everything's spiking, right? Violence against women is spiking. And you know, I'm just gonna say it right out now, you know, the war in Iran. Who gets bombed first? The first people who died, 160 schoolgirls, were in school and died because they got bombed, right? So really, the patriarchy doesn't want us to do this giant group project, right? It's kind of like in school, high school, and you have a group project, and the boys just don't want to do stuff, and the girls have to carry the entire project. And it's like, it's not fair, right? So it's not fair then, but they're volunteering. And we weren't volunteering for it in high school because we had to do it for our grades. But right now, they don't want us to volunteer for it. I'm sorry, I'm just ranting about this because like they don't want us to volunteer in fiction or in real life. They don't want us to volunteer to be in a group project to burn down the system. Seriously, they don't. So maybe that's the fear that Genevieve is talking about. Because they know once everyone cottons onto it and just works together, yeah, we're half the world's population. So
only because we gave birth to it, by the way. Sorry, just had to say that.
So you know that kind of takes us to the next sort of thing, next subtopic we're going to be talking about. So sisters and female friends in horror more often than not exist within and have to navigate patriarchal systems and face down misogynistic male monsters and villains that are hell-bent on either breaking their bond or killing them. So femicide is so common in horror, or at least old school horror. So how do you think the depiction of sisterhood and female friendship in horror reflect and comment on how society treats the bonds between women and girls in real life? Genevieve.
I think if you're looking historically, then again, it is something to be broken, something to be feared, and maybe competitive or bitchy. And that, you know, the reason for female characters to sometimes be in horror is to be the pretty things that are fighting over some guy. But I think that's really starting to shift, and we're starting to see really complex relationships that I think we do have those supportive relationships, but there's also, I think, subtext in I'm trying to think of the title. The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. There is a sisterly relationship there, but it's very complex. There's a lot of family trauma, there's a lot of history, and it's the same of She Is a Haunting. I can't think of the author's name, but again, those relationships are difficult, they're complex, but they are very well-rounded. So I think when you're starting to see that portrayal that, you know, shows these relationships as more than competition or bitchiness or the mean girl trope, that you start seeing, you know, we're starting to see fiction that's so much more engaging that you're invested in, because you're like, oh, when you come across the stereotype or cliche, you know how it's going to play out. Sometimes, like, writers lean into those tropes. I think Linda was saying in that poetry collection where you're really leaning into them, but it's for a purpose. It's to show, this is the ridiculousness of how women are being portrayed. One really kind of, to me, funny and surprising example is Slumber Party Massacre. Has anyone seen that? I feel like I should be ashamed for saying I've watched it, but I looked into it a little bit more, and it's one of those typical 80s slashers. There's nudity, and there's a villain running around with a drill, for goodness sake. How much more phallic could that be? But it was actually written by a woman, and when you look at it, it's actually holding up the ridiculousness of the male gaze in horror, and really almost lampooning it because it's so over the top. So sometimes I think we can be a little bit playful in looking at some of the ways, some of the tropes, but also I think we are moving away from some of the very flat characterization. Again, another long rambling answer.
No.
So, Linda, what do you think? Do you think that the depiction of sisterhood and female friendship in horror reflects the same thing in real life?
When it's done well, when someone decides to write well, which means writing a character more than one dimension, more than just one emotion. Everything is complicated. We all know that in our real life, and that's what makes a good writer. And so when it's done well, what it does is it shows what is in real life. I feel like female friends and stuff like Genevieve and Nicole, we don't see each other all the time. But in so many ways, I know that if I wanted to talk to them about something, whether it's happy, sadness, loss, whatever, that I can. There's this place that often when you have a female friend, because we're allowed to admit to having emotion, that we can land. And that in that place, we can celebrate each other. We can mourn loss together. And that's what's real. In real life, that is what is true, is that we're allowed to comfort each other as women. And have it have nothing to do with anything other than two human beings. So if that can be done in writing, why not? And again, it makes a more interesting story to have that characterization. It also, again, to be repetitive, has the reader maybe break down what kind of cliche they think. Because if you're a man looking at a relationship between two women, and you go into some crazy place with that, and then like it's not real, that you should keep to yourself. But if you're reading it in a book where you're seeing how that connection is, because sometimes our connection in real life is not loud, it's quiet. So, you see us hug, you see us hold hands. It is a quiet gentleness that women are allowed, that men are not allowed. Oh my God, see two men holding hand and they got a thing going on and somebody's watching that. And it could just be, there's been stuff in news, anyway, there's stuff out there where people are just like freaking out because men being like emotional. So I think that the writing of it helps, again, to break down what people are seeing. The writing of it, this is real. So take some time to think about the reality of a relationship with another person. That has nothing to do with taking something from them, but has to do with together building a stronger kind of motivation. Because that's what writing is also. You have characters, they go through stuff, monsters attack them, and they come out of it. So, or they're the monsters. I'm not opposed. I'm just saying.
Nicole, what do you think? Do you think the writing of female friendships and sisterhood in horror reflects real life?
I think it can. I think that's what Linda was saying as well. I think I think it's possible. I think if you want a good story, regardless of what type of character you're writing, it has to be a complex character, or else it's boring, right? The two-dimensional characters don't work. But I think it can be reflective of real life for all the reasons that Linda mentioned and for all the reasons that Genevieve mentioned. I think sometimes too, women don't sometimes value their friendships, right? They can't step outside the friendship and see it for what it's worth. And I think that sometimes that is a product of, right, misogyny and patriarchy, right? They don't value those bonds that they have created, or they take them for granted. But I think the more authentic relationships you have as a writer, the more authentic scenarios and character building you can produce in your work. And so I have different types of friendships with a lot of different types of women. And I think that varied relationships help enrich my work when I'm depicting female relationships in text, right? That keeps it from being stereotypical, right? That's the whole point of diversity, is having differences, in having full, well-rounded relationships with others that you can depict in writing. So that keeps us from othering people and characters. It also helps develop realistic relationships when you're writing story. I think it can depict that in horror. It has to be a conscious effort to do so.
Yeah, and I think when a lot of these purists who have internalized misogyny think that, including more sisters and female friends and groups of women in horror, it's gonna take away from horror. I think they are thinking in two-dimensional ways, right? One-dimensional characters, right? Oh, yeah, it's gonna have relentlessly cheerful sisters, and no, it's not, right? We want to have more female relationships depicted in positive ways, and that doesn't mean relentlessly cheerful. That means the complexities that all come in, and people can see how much strength women can have together, working together, being sisters, being friends, being, coven sisters. And that, like, again, I'm going to say they're afraid that, we're going to do this group project and burn down the patriarchy. But yeah. So we've been talking about writing about sisterhood and female friendship in horror. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts of storytelling. For horror authors who would like to write more authentic, bear in mind, everyone watching this, more authentic, not more cheerful, okay? More authentic female friendships and sisterhood as part of including feminist issues and ideas in their work, and tackling the issue of violence against women more powerfully and seamlessly in their stories. So, what advice would you give to up-and-coming horror authors who want to center female relationships, be it friendship or sisterhood or allyship, in their stories? Genevieve.
I think the first thing is to make sure that you want to write about it for a good reason. You're not trying to shoehorn it in, and you're trying to write something authentic. Like what is the character conflict and context that you're exploring? And then I think keeping those, the themes and characterizations top of mind can help you to create something realistic. But also, I think, Linda, you mentioned it's like the world is made up of so many different types of people that, think beyond what you might have seen historically. Historically, horror is very male and white. So, think beyond, pull beyond what you've seen, because that's how your brain works sometimes. It's just like it just pulls from what you've seen over and over again. But have a think beyond some of that. I think that can help you to create fiction that is fresh and engaging. I think that's why we're seeing so much diversity on awards shortlistings now, because we're getting all of these stories that are fresh and interesting and new and come from all these different perspectives that we haven't seen. I think that's a really good approach.
Linda, what do you think? What advice would you give?
Well, along with what Genevieve said, there's something about reading, right? To read what other people are doing, because that is a way to learn. I mean, just saying, and, you know, I mean, how to write about something if you haven't read the best of how it is, the best, you know, of how that kind of thing is. You know, people, the mention of authors here is just like the tip, it's not even the tip of the iceberg of people writing really well about female friendship and engagement together. I'm just going to hold this up because, you know, I am a little feral and hysterical. So I am. Anyone who's been around me, they're like, oh, yeah. I was like, yeah, take that. So anyway, this is by Sadie Hartman. It came out last year, I believe. Not this year, but it's the latest. And it says, Feral and Hysterical, Mother Horror's Ultimate Reading Guide to Dark and Disturbing Fiction by Women. Not nice. Dark and disturbing. Feral. I'm just saying. So do some reading on it and, you know, read some authors, just like anything. If you wanted to write about something that you've never done, that you don't know, do some reading and see from the best how this is what I do when I want to do something different. I read once and then I go back through and read with analysis in my mind. How is this character different from the other? What are the words? What are the emotions? Just like any character, male, female, or whatever. So.
Nicole, what would your advice be?
Linda took mine.
I'm sorry.
To read, right? To read widely, right? And to read diversely. That was mine. But also, I think if you want to, I think, look at your friend group. Look at the people you're around. Do you have, if you're a man wanting to write about female allyship, allyship or female relationships, are you around people that are female and who are allies, right? Who is in your circle? Because that kind of determines your worldview. Who's in your bubble, right? See, I think it's really important for people to understand that if you're not living in a diverse group, right, whether that be by gender or whether that be by racial diversity, whatever, if your inner group isn't diverse, if everyone looks exactly like you and everyone's spouting the same belief system as you, and you don't have access to others, like a sensitivity reader to help you with your females in this book, then read diversely. That's what reading does. It builds empathy. It shows representation. It's a journey into other people's lives. You get to live like all these different lives and story. Read. That's the only way that's going to help you see women as people and not things. It's the only way it's going to help you view not other people who are racially different from you. Like this, reading helps do that. It shows our humanity and story. And that, in the basis of everything, is what connects us. So I think, and if you want to have more diverse female relationship stories, and you don't have access to those things, or you're just beginning, those are some good things to try.
Yeah, because fiction builds empathy. I think they did a study on this, right? Fiction actually builds empathy. And, you know, I teach when I'm not out, you know, fighting for women's rights. I actually teach kids English and I get them to put together their reading list. I don't dictate their reading list, right? I get them to put it together. And one of my very few rules are if I ask you to put together a list of 10 books, there have to be 5 men and 5 women in there. You can't just go with all men.
I was also an English teacher for like 18 years, through 6 through 12 students. And when I was department chair, I changed what books were in that we could read, right? And those books became gradually over time more diverse because our student population is diverse. They don't care what this guy was saying in the 19th century. It's not applicable to them per se. And so we started, and I had some pushback, but Regina, I agree with you, right? And I have taught courses on empathy and how fiction builds empathy. You need that. You have to read. And I feel like that's a good point. And as for if you're wanting to write horror, if you're wanting to write at all, you should be a reader.
Yeah, because if you don't read, it's 101 with language acquisition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And proficiency. If you want to write well, or at least well enough to pass your English writing test, you gotta read, right? And here's the interesting thing: when I ask the kids to build their reading list, because I'm like, you're gonna read something that you chose. I'm not gonna dictate this to you. I just ask that you make sure that your reading list has 5 male authors and 5 female authors. The boys always start off with, I can't find enough female authors.
Wow.
The boys, not the girls, the boys. So I thought this is like kind of like turned into like an interesting, gender experiment or something. That accidental but interesting gender experiment. So how much sexism and misogyny has been inculcated in us from childhood, right? And that's interesting. And it's the boys, not the girls, but they learn quickly. A lot of times you find that they don't mean it a lot, especially if they're 11 or 12 years old. And when you teach them about all this, the boys don't care. They don't care who writes the books. If it's a good book, it doesn't matter if a male author, a female author, a non-binary author wrote it. It's just a good book. So I've ended with boys starting with all male authors in their list when they're age 11 or 12, and by the time they hit the ages of 17 or 18, they choose themselves to read authors like Jane Austen in there. So my job is done. Anyway, we've come to the end of the discussion session. So you've all recommended books and stories, at the beginning of this discussion. Do you have any novel, to wrap things up, do you have any horror novels or series that you would recommend to aspiring writers, horror writers, to read, to see examples of sisterhood and female friendship being handled well? Genevieve.
I'd like to give a shout out to Jen McCarthy, J.A.W. McCarthy's collection, Sometimes We're Cruel. That examines female relationships in a very nuanced but also very dark way, but beautiful writing. And also Jen's story in Silk and Sinew, which is a collection of folk horror from the Asian diaspora, edited by Christy Park-Kulski, also on the Stoker's shortlist. And Jen's story in that is a very beautiful story as well. Maybe We've Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson is a really good,
Yes.
really good examination of
wonderful.
Yeah, and Sundial by Katrina Ward as well is another really good one.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Silk and Sinew, if you're watching this and you're thinking of donating, everybody, there is a package, there is a bundle by Christy Park-Kulski in the fundraiser. We'll tell everyone how to get there shortly after this, but basically she's got a bundle with a couple of books and a handwritten rose note card with poetry ready for a Read for Pixels donor. So we'll get to that soon. But Linda, what are your picks? What would you recommend since you said that they should be reading more, what books should they be reading more of?
Can I get back to you? No. I am like the worst with this because it just gets me. It's so hard for me. I'm going to mention a book and then a movie. Can I do that?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the book is Such a Pretty Smile by Christy Demester. I'm messing up her last name. I'm so sorry, Christy. Demester? Am I saying that right? Closely to write. So in that book, it's like it's been described, and I love that it's described as a coming of rage story because that's like that. Just I need to write a poem, coming of rage. But anyway, I just said I diverse. How funny is that? So anyway, the story is like the small town, and killers running around. It's horror, but the team up is the mother and the daughter, and I kind of like that. And my mother would never team with me that because she's such a Baptist. But my Aunt Henrietta, her and I would go down on some ghouls. She's not here anymore. That's what But I still think of her when I need to be hard, a hard person. So that, in a movie, okay, Tank Girl, because this is an old movie, Tank Girl, but I always go to Tank Girl when I think I need a little extra strength in my back. She had
a great one.
Right? Her favorite friends was a tank. Okay, I'm gonna say it was male, or maybe not. Maybe it was trans tank. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm silly. But Tank Girl and her best friend was the woman who took care of like electronics in the tank too. And the whole thing is that talking about two different characters. She was so hard that nobody could even bother her. Like they would try to do all kinds of things. She was like, "Oh, that's the best you can do, whatever." And then her partner, the woman who helped her take care of the tank, started off in the story really like shy and sort of, a little bit like withdrawn, and just became more. So between the two of them, like Tank Girl got a little bit softer, I guess, and the other one got a little bit more in touch with her rage. So I just love that movie. It's the best.
Nicole, what are your recommendations?
Oh, my list is so long. So I'm going to do anthologies because I tend to like those, and they offer a lot of different short stories, but they also a lot of different writers. So if you're a beginning writer, here's what I think you should look toward. So correct starters, right? It's because there's just an immense amount. Like it's a huge volume of diverse Black women written stories, and many of them have Black women friendship as well. I am also going to recommend A Goddess of Filth. I've already said that. But I also like The Black Girl Survives in this one, which is an anthology of horror stories as well. So featuring women in female relationships. So there's more. Black Magic Women, which Mocha published. There's a lot of stories and anthologies that feature women and female relationships in horror. And so those are the three that I would start with.
So read, everybody, read. This is coming from, 3 horror authors and editors and 2 English teachers. Read as if your life would depend on it. Oh, and I just want to add, when Linda talked about film, if all of you out there, if any of you out there haven't watched it yet, watch Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes.
Yeah. We are not things. I'm just going to say this. We are not things. And it proved, the sisterhood in that movie proved that women are not things. And it proved it in the most raw and visceral and terrifying way that women are not things. So check that out, everybody. So thank you all for being here with us today. Just to let everyone know, aside from, if you joined us late, aside from joining today's panel, Genevieve, Linda, and Nicole have donated some super exclusive goodies to the stash of author treats we have out as perks for donors on the Read for Pixels 2026 International Women's Day Rally Out fundraising page. And so the first goodie, so we'll talk about goodies for US donors first. Also, Linda has a couple of giveaways. One is Linda will write an acrostic poem based on the donor's name. And just to let you know, an acrostic poem uses the first letter of a name vertically and writes a phrase or sentence for each letter. So for example, if your name is Linda, you will have a 5-line poem. Each line beginning with the first one with L, the second one with I, the third one with N, the fourth one with D, and the fifth one with A. And that is a really, really exacting, I would say, format to write in, because you have to stick to a set opening letter a set opening word with the first letter being the letter in that name in the order in which it appears. So before Linda composes the poem, she will send the donor 3 questions to answer in order to get a general idea of the donor as a person, and this will make the poem a fantastic and beautifully personalized artistic keepsake for one very generous donor. Or if you have a friend who has a birthday coming up, this would be a gorgeous birthday present for your friend. And what you donate to get this poem, that will go towards the Pixel Project's work to end violence.
And I will do that handwritten. I will make a handwritten on pretty paper with nice pen, everything.
Yeah. Wow. So that would be a gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, frameable birthday present for someone. And so the second goodie from Linda is a gorgeous mini bundle, which includes the Bram Stoker and Nebula Award nominated Everything Endless. It'll be the paperback edition, we signed and personalized by Linda, and also 1 copy of the paperback edition of An Illegal Feast. If you're looking to read more women poets, this would be the book to look at. And so Linda will also sign and personalize it, and Linda will tuck in 6 Everything Endless bookmarks, and they're very, very cool. You can go to our fundraising page and have a look at the bookmarks. And also for US donors, Nicole will be giving away 2 Reaping by Numbers bundles. This bundle, carefully curated by Nicole herself, includes 1 first edition paperback of Reaping by Numbers, which is signed and personalized by Nicole, and it's a fun read. It's going to be such a fun read because it's a female reaper who has to save the world. So, find out how she saves the world by getting this bundle. And we'll also tuck in a friendship bracelet and a set of stickers. So this will be such a fun bundle to have for your summer reading. You can put on the friendship bracelet, you can put the stickers on your tumbler, take the book out to somewhere nice and summery, warm to read under the sun. Well, not too much under the sun, because you got to sunscreen, everybody. Sunscreen, yes. And anyway, so for donors worldwide, Geneve has 2 awesome goodies on offer. 1 has just gone now. It's a signed and personalized paperback copy of Unquiet Spirits, which is a collection of essays by female Asian horror authors. So Geneve will be sending it out to the donor who snapped it up. And since it's snapped up, and if you really want to read that book, you can go to book retailer platforms worldwide and get your copy. And also the second one, which is really, really helpful for anyone watching this panel today, is if you're writing, Geneve will be offering a critique bundle either for a single author or writing pair. So that includes 1 written critique of a short story or a chapter from your work in progress, up to 5,000 words. So that's quite a substantial chunk of words there that Geneve is happy to look at, and also add her comments and feedback. And you get up to 5 follow-up questions via email to get further feedback about the critique from Geneve. And also, if you want to read Reaping by Numbers and you're not in the US, Nicole has very kindly offered 5 virtual bundles, Reaping by Numbers bundles, which has the ebook edition. You can get it in EPUB or PDF format, your choice. And also 1 set of 4 exclusive Read for Pixels wallpapers from the Pixel Project. Now, we've raised $1,830 towards a $5,000 goal so far. That's really slow. That's the slowest that we've ever had in our 12 years of running the Read for Pixels campaign. And we know that it's because of circumstances in the world right now. But please give what you can, because the fundraiser is going to end in April, and all funds go towards the Pixel Project's work to help end violence against women, including the Read for Pixels program, which gives authors a platform to talk about violence against women, to talk about female characters and tropes and themes and misogyny and sexism in books, and also pop culture, and also gives readers a chance to engage with authors, to talk about these difficult issues, and to have free resources to use, like all our videos of all our live streams, like this panel, all archived. If you're a teacher out there, if you're a parent, if you have a student, or you have students or kids that you want to talk to about violence against women, and it is a difficult topic to talk about, y'all can watch the replays and then talk about what's being said in the panel, or talk about what their favorite YA author has to say about violence against women. Okay, so there are also plenty more goodies available from authors and publishers, including Addison Goodman, Charlene Harris, Carrie Vaughn, Dorothy Coomson, Eden Royce, Karen Auden, Kelsey Yu, and I've mentioned Christy Parkalski, El Penelope, Laurie R. King, Liba Braid, Premi Muhammad, and Subterranean Press. So if anyone out there is a book collector, Subterranean Press is actually offering out-of-print books that had been, when the titles were first released, they were gone within 24 hours. So if you're a book collector and you really want a copy of a Subterranean Press book, go check out the titles that are on offer on our fundraising page. And new goodies will be released every week throughout March. And I'm going to put some slides on screen now to tell everyone where to go get the goodies. So hang on, back to stage. All right, so you can donate for goodies via Rally Up. You can go to tinyurl.com/R4P Rally Up IWD 2026. This is case sensitive, so type it in carefully. You can find out more about the Read for Pixels campaign. We don't just do live streams. We also have a lot of blog interviews. We do a lot of other cool stuff with authors to raise awareness about violence against women. You can find out more by going to bit.ly/readforpixels. Again, this is case sensitive, so be careful to write it all down carefully. And also, and this is so cool, Nicole actually has a poem in this book, this poetry collection. The Pixel Project is partnered with Black Spot Books, and we've for our first poetry collection called Under Her Eye, and it contains poems from 112 female and non-binary poets, opening with Know to Be True by Bram Stoker Awards winner Stephanie M. Witowich, and a writing assignment by HWA Lifetime Achievement Award winner and SFPA Grandmaster March Simon, and it closes on a powerful note with a map of the backyard by Bram Stoker Awards nominee Jessica McHugh. And if you're curious about what Nicole wrote, about what the poem from Nicole is in there, you can get the book too. And it's all proceeds from the book go to supporting the Pixel Project's anti-violence against women work. And also, I would like to suggest that this book can be a good way of breaking the ice, talking to your friends, family, and community about violence against women, because it's so much easier to, have a discussion about a poem or fiction when you want to talk about difficult topics like that instead of going in cold. So for more information, please visit vesuvianmedia.com/under-her-I, and you can get the book from any reputable book selling platform worldwide. So finally, to learn more about violence against women and how to help victims and worldwide, you can visit the Pixel Project. We have a ton of free resources there that you can use. For more immediate help for domestic violence and sexual assault victims, you can go to nomoredirectory.org, which has the helplines and resources in every UN recognized country and territory in the world. That's over 200 countries. This website is a joint project. This resource website is a joint project between UN Women, the No More Foundation, and also the World Bank. There's a search box there. All you need to do is type in your country name, and it'll pull up a list of helplines, hotlines, shelters, and other services that victims need in your country. Now, finally, to find out more about violence against women and what you can do about it, again, go to our website, www.thepixelproject.net. Now, our panel, they have a few announcements for everybody. So let's begin with Genevieve. What announcement do you have, Genevieve?
I'll be attending StokerCon in person in June, so I'm super excited. Hopefully, I'll see Linda and Nicole there, and I'll be. Well, I probably can't say, but I'll be on a couple of panels. I'll be chairing a couple of panels, and hopefully teaching a workshop as well. And I have a few kind of secret announcements, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I've just got short fiction and poetry coming out in a little bit.
Linda, what do you have coming out?
Well, in the towards the end of April, I'll be a guest of honor at MoCon, which you can look up, MoCon, I know. And so I'll be there. I'll definitely be at StokerCon because I'm a guest of honor. And also, this year is kind of making me feel crazy in the best way. I'm also guest of honor at World Fantasy Convention and later on in the year. So,
yay!
And Nicole, what do you have coming out next?
My Southern Gothic short story collection called The Spirit Room comes out from Undertaker Books on April 13th. Okay. And of course, I'll be at StokerCon in June as well.
Sounds like StokerCon's going to be fun.
Why not cheat on me? Depending on what you want.
Anyway, so thank you to everyone who's joined us today. And we are calling it a wrap now. So have a good day or good night wherever you are in the world. And Linda has a show and tell. Those are the 2 books in her bundle. So please do go to our fundraising page if you are interested in reading some award-winning or award-nominated poetry from Linda and a whole range of female poets. All right, have a good day or good night wherever you are in the world. Thank you for being with us today, everybody.
And thank you, Regina. Thank you for the work that you and your organization does.
Yes.
Angel work, just saying.
Thank you so much.